5 iconic images from Krishna's childhood. Lila, by Krishna's mercy.
Vatsan munchan kvachid samaye krosha sanjatahas. Steyam swadvatyath dadhipay kalpitay steya yogay. Markan bhokshan vibhajati sachainatti bhandam bhinnatti. Dravyalabhe sagriha kupito yatyupakroshya tokan. Quote, Our dear friend Yashoda, your son sometimes comes to our houses before the milking of the cows and releases the calves, and when the master of the house becomes angry, your son merely smiles. Sometimes he devises some process by which he steals palatable curd, butter and milk, which he then eats and drinks. When the monkeys assemble, he divides it with them, and when the monkeys have their bellies so full that they won't take more, he breaks the pots. Sometimes, if he gets no opportunity to steal butter or milk from a house, he will be angry at the householders, and for his revenge, he will agitate the small children by pinching them. Then, when the children begin crying, Krishna will go away. Shrimad Bhagavatam 10:8-29. The supposed first steps of a human being on the surface of the moon, the lifting of a flag amidst the rubble of a collapsed building. The Situation Room associated with the President of the United States, where observers watch a secret and dangerous mission unfolding in real time. A candidate for office rising up defiantly and triumphantly after surviving an attempt on his life. The images associated with these events are often described as iconic. They pass quickly through both time and space. There is widespread distribution. People know about these images. They spend extra time looking at them precisely because of the deeper meaning. They are either already familiar with the context or are so interested that they wish to learn more. It would make sense, then, that the most important person of all would have similar kinds of images associated with him, though he can never be limited to a single visual or a specific name, though he is both within the heart as the supersoul and the separate surveyor of the many universes through his exclusive perch in the Vaikuntha realm. There are still many images associated with his wanderings in the manifest realm. These appearances occur along a schedule solely determined by him. He decides when and where to manifest to give visual proof to the doubting eyes of the proper administration of justice.
Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirbhavati bharat abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamya aham.
Quote, Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Lord Krishna, Bhagavad-gita 4:7.
The subject matter of God is vast enough to stretch across the entirety of recorded history. In studying him, we are not simply regurgitating past events.
He is as much around today, sharing his mercy with people connected to him, as he was thousands of years ago in places like Gokula and Dwarka. Due to his absolute nature, focusing on only a small portion of time in an otherwise unremarkable tract of land, is enough to end many cycles of attachment and aversion, elation and frustration, and the all-encompassing birth and death.
1. Damodar.
For this particular exercise, we focus on the appearance in this world of Sri Krishna.
More specifically, we cover his time as a child in the farm community of Gokula Vrindavan.
We consider it a sacred place today, based on the authority of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That golden avatar explains that just as Krishna is worshipable, so is his land. This makes Vrindavan an ideal place to worship, since it is one of the most cherished pieces of land to be found. God is powerful. God is strong. God is the Almighty. He can punish anyone. He can deliver justice in the swiftest manner possible. In the way that trees produce flowers only during the appropriate season, the evildoers should know that they will not get away with their crimes. Punishment will surely arrive when the time is right. Avashyam labhate jantuh phalam papasya karmana. Ghoram paryagate kale drumah pushpamivartavam. Quote, just as a tree starts to blossom during the proper season, so the doer of sinful deeds inevitably reaps the horrible fruit of their actions at the appropriate time. Lord Rama speaking to Kara, Valmiki Ramayana, Aranyakand 29-8.
God as the punisher is an easy image to conjure. But what about God on the receiving of punishment? What about God being afraid of a loving mother and her whipping stick? What about God shedding a tear at the prospect of the mother rightfully being upset at a pot of butter broken in childish anger?
This is the vision of Damoda. He is named as such due to the situation.
Krishna is tied to a mortar.
This is the mild punishment for a tantrum resulting from competing responsibilities for Yashoda within the home. The image is iconic because of the loving exchange and also the power of devotion.
Yashoda has so much love for God that he agrees to be bound to a mortar for her, to grant her desire, even though only moments prior could not find enough rope to complete the task. Quote, she gathered more ropes from the house and added to it, but at the end she found the same shortage. In this way, she connected all the ropes available at home, but when the final knot was added, she saw that it was still 2 inches too short. Mother Yashoda was smiling, but she was astonished. How was it happening?
Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Volume 1, Chapter 9. 2. Stealing butter. We associate the word Dharma with worship of that same Krishna.
Dharma is the closest equivalent to the more familiar term in the modern day, religion. Except Dharma is not something to be accepted or rejected.
It is not faith.
Dharma is something that never leaves us.
When applying to a specific occupation, situation, or period of time, Dharma is that way to maintain fidelity with the desired condition.
When operating under these definitions, who would ever equate Dharma with stealing? It would appear to be the antithesis of good behavior, of progressing towards a higher standard of understanding.
At a minimum, Dharma should involve respect for private property. Dharma should not involve breaking and entering, taking what is not yours, or causing havoc for no reason. And yet Krishna was known precisely for this during his childhood in Gokula Vrindavan. He became famous as the butter thief. The mothers witnessed what was happening. They filed their versions of police reports to the authority figure in charge at the time, Mother Yashoda.
Something interesting would then take place. As the witnesses were giving their report, reviewing the bad things Krishna had done, the stance softened to the point that it sounded like they took pleasure in Krishna's intrusions. They soon changed their decision. They appealed for leniency from the mother. No reason to punish Krishna necessarily. He was adored in their community after all.
3. With Yashoda.
In this image, Krishna is seated on the lap of Mother Yashoda. Even if a person is not familiar with either character, with the subject matter of Vedic literature in general, they can tell that there is a strong bond. There is love from both sides.
We have confirmation from those in the know that these exchanges are not random. The Supreme Personality of Godhead chooses where to appear and which places to call home. 4. Checking for dirt.
An adult Krishna has a wonderful conversation with a bow warrior named Arjuna. They briefly address the imminent reality of an upcoming large-scale military conflict, but also delve into higher subject matters, reaching across the entire scope of space and beyond.
Krishna even explains that the people who truly know time do so in the context of the lifespan of the Creator, Lord Brahma. Sahasra yug paryantam, ahar yad brahmano vidhu, ratrim yug sahasranta, te ho ratra vidho janah. Quote, by human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together is the duration of Brahma's one day, and such also is the duration of his night. Lord Krishna, Bhagavad-gita 8:17. To add validity to the presentation, to address any future doubters who might access the transcript of the conversation kindly passed along by Vyasadeva, Arjuna asks Krishna to reveal the universal form. This would prove the divine nature of the teacher in that situation. It would be the empirical evidence that the less intelligent always insist upon.
Interestingly, a similar exchange took place during Krishna's childhood. This was not necessarily by request. It was also a bewildering experience, as the person witnessing the entire universe was not prepared to accept that something so vast could fit into the mouth of a child, let alone the one who had just been accused of eating dirt.
5. Crossing the Yamuna.
There would be no childhood pastimes in Gokula Vrindavan, were it not for a brave father dutifully following through on a request from his 8th child.
That child somehow survived the tyranny of King Kamsa of Mathura.
If for only a few moments there was safety. Vasudeva and his wife Devaki were in prison at the time. They had suffered enough in seeing their previous children killed immediately after birth.
This was to satisfy the paranoia of Kamsa, who was previously informed that Devaki's 8th child would spell his final doom. The latest newborn showed his 4-handed form of Narayan in order to establish authority to his word.
He then instructed Vasudeva on what to do.
Since Kamsa would eventually find out about the birth of the child, it was safer to live in Gokula Vrindavan. Therefore, in the middle of the night, Vasudeva was able to escape the jail.
He was on his way to the destination when further obstacles appeared. A rainstorm combined with a raging river.
In this classic image, Vasudeva is holding the newborn above his head while crossing the river. Ananta Sheshanaga, who is always protecting Vishnu in the spiritual world, emerges to provide cover for the baby. Vasudeva is able to make it safely across, to then conduct a swap of babies with Nanda Maharaj. In closing, the seal of protection to break, regularly as butter thief to make. The mothers ready then to complain that Krishna to their homes came, but while the rap sheet reading, drive for vengeance receding. Rather pleasure that confidently known, leniency for child should be shown.